We love our home, our condominium in Chula Vista, California. It's really nice. We have a wonderful lake just outside our door. However, this giant Canary Island pine tree has been a problem for us. The tree looms 50 or perhaps 60 feet above our ground floor place. And as much as we love trees, the constant dropping of pine needles has made our patio almost unusable and a huge cleanup mess almost every day. So we are glad that this tree will soon be removed. Stay with us and watch it come down by a professional tree crew. They did a marvelous job. Today, we have a wonderful crew of men here taking down our big troublesome pine tree that's just off our patio, and it rains pine needles all day long every day and makes quite a mess, almost like brown snow. And they're here to take the tree down. Our complex is taking down several troublesome pine trees in the last few months, and our turn has finally come today. And the men are here now with their chainsaws and their ropes, and as you can see, they're well along right now. We're very pleased about that. The mess from the needles, as you can see, has covered those shrubs right behind our garden wall. Our patio is right in the middle of the screen there, right behind that pillar and that wall, and we really like it. It's not very big, but it's big enough for the two of us, and we like to spend time out there. But this rain of pine needles for the last few years from our giant Canary Island pine, Pinus canariensis, has been quite a problem for a while. So we put a request into our HOA about a year ago to have this tree removed, and they've been removing several troublesome trees now for the last few weeks, and we're very, very happy about that. Joan and I are like a couple little kids out here watching the progress, and you know, we have a nice place here. Here's the lake just outside of our place, and we like walking around that. And there's Joan sitting on a lawn chair watching the work. Again, we're like a couple little kids out here as the work progresses. It's really neat to watch. At this point, the men have stripped off about half the branches, starting at the lower ones, and they're working their way up. And they cut them off kind of like one tier of branches at a time, and then they carry those up to a tree chipper up in the parking lot above us here. As you can see, they're working very quickly and making some really good progress here. And we're just so thrilled, because now we won't have to put up with this mess of pine needles any longer. Again, there's our patio right behind that wall in that corner right there. And these pine needles have been a real problem for a long time. Here goes our tree now into the chipper. The big branch just went in. That whole giant tree is probably going to end up in this truck today. There it is again, towering above our patio. And we're not going to miss it one bit. Now we will show you the progress of the limbing up to this point. They have not even been here for an hour yet. As you can see, there's the trunk in the middle of the shot. Man's coming to the branch right now. They're dropping another big branch from up above. And I would say over half the tree has been limbed up to this point. That man is probably 30 or 40 feet above the ground, climbing with ropes and climbing gear as the chainsaws off the limbs one at a time. Looks like a pretty dangerous job. We're very thankful that these guys are willing to do it. Okay, this man's about to chainsaw off another limb, and there it goes. After the branches have been dropped to the ground from above, the men on the ground
untie the ropes from them, of course, and then they take chainsaws and they saw the branches up into smaller pieces so they can easily drag them up to the chipper above. The chipper's maybe 100 feet away up in a parking lot up a flight of stairs, but they don't want to be dragging those giant, huge limbs that are probably, some of them at least 20 feet long and probably weigh over 100 pounds, but they're doing a very good job and doing it very quickly. It's amazing how skilled and professional this crew is. It's a pleasure to watch.
You can see now that they've got the biggest part of the top of the tree on the ground now, and as we pan up, you're going to see that this project is well underway. The tree is all but limbed except for one giant limb, one big limb at the very top, but they've topped the tree, dropped that to the ground. You just saw that, and the men are working very hard to complete the project, and they're really making good time here. It's a great crew of guys. Very impressive. I hope you're enjoying our show here. As you can see, the men now have a big part of the tree felled. It's limbed all the way up, as you can see, limbed all the way up, and there's still a pretty large sized pile of branches there on the ground they still have to carry up to the chipper up in the parking lot. But they've really made good progress. We are going to attach a time lapse to this video further on in so you can see the process kind of in a time-lapse fashion in just a few minutes from start to finish. But it's very impressive to see what they've done, and we are very anxious to have this tree be gone because our patio is right next to the tree, and this thing has rained down pine needles every day for a few years now. Makes quite a mess in our patio, almost makes our patio unusable. So we put a request into our HOA about a year ago, and they agreed to take the tree down along with several other troublesome these are Canary Island pines, Pinus canariensis. They grow well in the Phoenix area and warm areas where it doesn't get too cold, but it's terribly messy, and we really can't put up with it much longer. So it'll be gone today, and our patio will be clean after this. Very nice thing. We're very happy about that. That's the top of the tree right there, laying on the ground. Of course, they cut off branches one at a time as they went up and dropped them on ropes so they wouldn't cause any damage. And now the tree is pretty well stripped up to the very top, with the exception of one lone limb up there. And I don't know why the man left that. They're taking a break right now, and I imagine they'll get started on it right after their coffee break. And we'll see the whole thing be gone before the day's over. We're just very, very thrilled about that. You know, we really have a nice place here. Here's our home. This is our group of our building with our unit in it. Our unit is on the ground floor, and then here we have this. We are really fortunate. We have this wonderful lake right behind our home, and we really enjoy that. All kinds of wildlife, ducks and geese and turtles and seagulls and herons and all kinds of wild critters frequent this area on a daily basis, and so we're very fortunate to live here. The main guy that climbed the tree before is going back up, as you can see. It looks like he might be heading up to maybe get that last limb off or do some roping to enable the tree to be felled in chunks. I don't know if they do that. They just fell the whole thing in one time, but he's about halfway up the tree again toward that last limb, and we'll just keep watching. This man is continuing to limb up the very top section of the trunk and get ready to haul all that stuff away. And of course, in the meantime, his co-worker is still continuing to climb the trunk up to the very top to make that happen. You can see now that the almost all of the branches that have been dropped have been cut off and have been hauled up to the chipper upstairs there, and so they're really making good progress. He's now starting to chainsaw the uppermost part of the trunk again and haul that away, you know, kind of like bite-sized pieces. And we're going to go back and look at the man at the top of the tree again and see what he's up to. He's probably 50 feet above the ground right now, because the roof line nearby him, near the tree, has got to be 30 feet above the ground because it's the third level. So that's got to be about 30 feet right there. We see that point in the gutters and stuff, and then it's probably, you know, 30 feet to the ground. So he's really up there. If you look closely, you can see he's cut a wedge out of the trunk in the direction that he wants it to fall. And then he'll go back, I think, and cut from the backside so that that section of the trunk will fall in the direction toward that wedge that he just cut out. That's a classic way of felling trees in the direction you want them to fall. Cut a wedge out of the trunk a little bit halfway through. You know, you make two cuts, of course, to make the wedge, and then your wedge has to face the direction you want the trunk to fall. Then you go in and you cut from the backside, and that's then the tree or the trunk will fall in that direction. There he goes. Here he goes on that top uppermost section of the trunk now. He is cutting from the backside of that wedge. And you got it roped at the top. Here it comes. Bingo. Well, there it is. Timber! This man is preparing to drop the second large section of the trunk now. And they're taking it in maybe 8 feet chunks, 8-foot chunks. So this will be the next chunk. First they took the very top of the tree out, then you just saw how they did that next section. Now this is the third piece of the trunk they're taking down. He's got his wedge cut, and he will presumably now go in from the back side of that, and we'll drop that section of the trunk. There's a better close-up section of that wedge cut out of the trunk, and he's continuing to rope it off now so they can safely drop it. There it is.
Timber!
Timber! Quite an impressive project. You can see that last section of trunk lying there on the ground. And they're preparing, looks like, to rope up maybe at least one more. I don't know. We'll see. About a 10 or 12-inch section at a time. The crew has done a very good job of cleaning up the fallen pine needles and small branches and large branches, and that's all been taken upstairs to their truck. So they're really moving right along now. And it looks like maybe he's about to head upstairs. It's interesting that they send the chainsaw up the tree on a rope already running. Of course, the chain's not moving, but we've seen them do that a couple of times during this process here today. Now the chainsaw is up to him. Again, it's already started. Looks like now what they might be trying to do is just take the remaining part of the trunk done on one big piece. They've got it tied off at the bottom. They've got it tied at the top, and the guide rope going down to a man, the same guy that was down there before. Looks like he's ready to go. He appears to be cutting a wedge on that side of the trunk toward the man with the rope. I'm guessing he'll come and cut from the back side in a moment. That big section of the trunk, there it goes. Bingo.
Here is a 2.5-minute time lapse that shows the entire process start to finish, from where they started limbing up the tree near the ground and working their way up. The man up in the tree actually had to shimmy up using climbing gear, spiked shoes, and a belt that he just kind of goes up the tree that way. There really was no way to get a cherry picker truck down there because the ground slopes steeply from right behind the building down to a lake down there. So he's had to do by manual means. But he really did a good job, and he quickly was able to limb the tree up toward the top. As the branches fell to the ground, his co-workers quickly sawed them up into smaller chunks with chainsaws and then carried them up to a chipper truck, which was about 100 feet away up a flight of stairs in the parking lot. These time-lapse segments were shot using my Nikon camera on a tripod. It was about 100 yards or 100 meters away from the work there, safely out of range of falling branches, and of course we don't want to get in the way of the men. The video segments, the live video segments, were shot on my Canon camera, and the still shots that you're going to see in here were taken with both. And note how efficiently the men quickly gathered up and cut up the branches that fell, and they took them up one at a time to that chipper truck up there. It didn't take long for them to clear the ground below to make room for more branches, which of course is what they had to do. And in the next segment, we'll see how they fell the biggest part of the trunk. So keep watching, please. In this time-lapse segment, you'll see how they fell the big part of the trunk that still remains, probably about a 30 or 40-foot section above the ground. And they fell that, or cut it off in about 8-foot pieces, I think. Drop those to the ground, and then we'll continue on to the next 8-foot piece until the trunk was all the way down to the ground and ready to saw off the stump. It was really cool to watch how these guys took care of this, and how professional, and how they knew to tie with their ropes and cut the wedges and use the chainsaws. I don't know how long they've been doing this, but they certainly had experience before they arrived to do our tree today. They have several more to do in our complex, but I'm sure they'll get them done before the end of the year. I hope they do.
As of about 1:30 p.m. on Monday, October 11th, this is pretty much all that remains of that giant Canary Island pine that we had here. There is the remaining stump right there. The crew had to leave because the one of them told me they had to go on some emergency call someplace. They're going to come in tomorrow and finish up the cleanup. They'll saw up this big section of trunk and the one below it, and they'll probably take that trunk down a little further so it's not sticking up so high out of the ground. But there's still a lot of sawdust laying around, and they'll get all cleaned that cleaned up. They did a really good job. We're very proud of them, and we're just glad to have that tree gone so that we won't have such a huge mess on our patio anymore. This is kind of interesting. A few hours now after they finished for today, this is the stump from the tree that was once probably 50 or 60 feet tall. That stump is about 24 inches in diameter. But can you see how in the last few hours a lot of the sap from inside the trunk is kind of just oozed up from below and is now kind of collecting on the surface there. It's also kind of doing the same thing, oozing out of the end of the cut end of the tree that was a little bit higher up there, but it's kind of doing the same. You see how you see the run marks and stuff? It's kind of cool to see that. So the major benefit of having our big pine tree, our giant 50-foot pine tree removed is this. We will no longer have that rain of pine needles, and they're this long, 8 or 10 inches long, maybe longer, coming down all day long. You can see how they collected. We actually had to put that bird netting up here a few years ago to prevent some of them from dropping into our patio. A few still got through, but now we don't have to worry about that anymore. We can take the bird netting down now, and we'll be able to enjoy our patio. It'll be a lot cleaner from now on. We are totally happy about that. We are so grateful for the crew from Bemus Landscape. They did a great job taking the tree down yesterday, and now we're ready to go. Our patio's totally good and usable again. Very, very good stuff. Thank you. And this now is all that remains of our once 50-foot tall, messy Canary Island pine tree this stump right here, it's about 24 inches in diameter. I counted tree rings. It might have been 40 years old. But as much as we like trees, we're glad that it's gone to save us the continual cleanup messes of the dropping needles that came down constantly all the time. So there you go. Hope you enjoyed our program. Here you can see the problem with those pine needles raining down from our now gone Canary Island pine tree that was just outside this wall. Can you see this mass of pine needles? That they fell in here like that every day. And now we're going to get this cleaned up and we're going to be good to go because we really like our little patio. I'll show you more about that in just a moment, but this is quite a mess that we are not going to have to put up with anymore. That's really nice. We'll give you a tour of our patio right now. It's just outside our living room sliding glass door. We have our little bistro table and 2 chairs. We have on the one end of the patio our barbecue, our gas barbecue coming back, and then we planted all those container plants, the ferns and the fiddle leaf fig and the cordyline. We put the impatiens in the containers, and they're looking they're maybe a little bit worn now, but they're looking pretty good still. And we'll redo that with holiday plants here pretty soon. But here again you see the that mess of the ferns there. I mean the mess of the pine needles that rained down on that Boston fern right there. It was really quite a lot of problems. And again, the tree was just only about 10 feet beyond that corner, so we're really glad that we don't have to put up with that anymore. This sequence might more graphically illustrate, again, the pine needle problem that we had before. It all got caught in the branches or the leaves of our fern and the cordyline in amongst our other container plants. See all that? We have to go in there with rakes and brooms and clean that up. But look at all that, and that's no more for us. We're really happy about that. Meet our crew from Bemus Landscape out of San Marcos, suburban San Diego. I think a couple of the guys drove off before I could get their picture, but these 4 men agreed to pose. Here are Jason, Marcos, Manuel, and Juan Carlos. They came, they chainsawed, and they wood chipped an entire giant Canary Island pine for us. This photograph was taken when the giant tree was still in place before the work began. But there you see it, how big it is, how it towered over our place, and how it rained down needles all the time. This shot shows the tree gone now. Notice a lot more sky outside of our place, and you're going to see it from the ground level in the next photograph. Here is standing on the ground just outside of our place looking up. Our patio is that lower opening you see there. No more needles. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed our video, please like it and subscribe to our YouTube channel. It helps a lot. And also have a look at our blog, GardenDesignQuickStartGuide.com, and our Facebook gardening pages. They're both shown on the screen here. Have a great day.